Any other questions?
Well, if I may, I'd like to do like the reporters do to the president and kind of sneak a two questions at you. The first would be kind of a constitutional question. I'm taking constitutional law.
You poor thing.
Thank you. And I wonder if you could tell me, or to the best of your knowledge, if there's any information about how many framers and ratifiers of the Constitution were atheists and who they would be. And if I could,
do want to speak
can I
to
slip
that.
in one more thing? Just on a personal level, you both talked about your personal life, and you mentioned your family upbringing, and Mr. Murray, you mentioned your brother. I wonder if you could tell me something more about him, if he's involved in your movement currently.
Let me speak to this first thing. I don't give a damn what Madison thought. I don't give a damn what George Washington thought. The hell with Thomas Jefferson. And I worshipped these people for years. And then it dawned on me, every one of them had slaves. Not a one of them would give a woman a vote. They wouldn't let even a man vote without owning property. And they counted all blacks as 2/3 of a human being. What the hell right does Madison, Jefferson, or any of the other, quote, founding fathers have a right to say anything to me for? I wasn't a party to that contract. How many of you take contract law? Were you a party to the contract for the Constitution of the United States? The Constitution of the United States should be valid in that it has inherent ideas in it which are based on logic and reason. And those parts of the Constitution we should say, this is good and this we will keep. And the rest of the stuff I would like to get rid of. Do you realize that we had a House of Lords for a Senate? We didn't elect a Senate by direct vote. Jefferson did that, and Madison and Washington and Madison and all the rest of them. So, in a sense, when people start to say to me, oh, listen, Abraham Lincoln is great, you should read what he said, or you should read why he enunciated the Emancipation Proclamation. Go and find the reason that he did that. I don't think he gave a damn about the blacks. I think that was political expediency. And I think that it's time that some of us looked at some of these old ideas and say, we'll keep them because they're good. We're going to keep this. We'll keep this because it's good. As a matter of fact, I will keep something that Stalin said or Hitler said if it can be examined logically and it's right. And then I'll throw all of the rest of the stuff away because they were full of some bizarre ideas. But let's keep what is right. Let's keep what is valid. Let's do the things that are necessary to do. And the Constitution has major problems. And to say that we must stand with something that was written in 1789 when George Washington did not have the same knowledge that a high school graduate in Houston, Texas has. Did he have as much knowledge about chemistry, biology, science, technology? Did he have any knowledge about our electrical-based system of culture? They knew nothing about those. Let's pick out what is good and save it, and let's go on with that, and not worship the Constitution as if we were worshiping the Bible. Because that's what it is. We are worshiping a Bible. And I will continue to pick out that part of the Constitution which is good and throw away that part of the Constitution which is bad. In my thinking, I will not support it. John, you want to talk about your brother? Or is that too stomach-turning?
Well, has it been 10 years? I'd say probably. At least about 10 years ago,
15.
maybe 15 years ago now, my brother decided that he would embark on a course of saying to the public that he disavowed his participation in the original Murray versus Curlett Bible Prayer Suit of 1963. That's how he started out. Was just saying that he had somehow, he claimed, had been coerced by our mother and had his arm twisted to participate in that suit. That wasn't the case at all, because our family would have never become involved in that, actually, probably, except for him. He was the one who came home and absolutely insisted, this is hypocritical, what am I doing, why am I being forced to say this when we're atheists, you know? Mother, can't you do something about this or help me do something about it? And of course she did, and that's how we got involved in the suit. He was, and I have to say this as background, he was the brunt of about 5 years, 6 years, worth of intense physical and psychological abuse in Baltimore, Maryland during that case, that came at the most awkward time that it could come for a young male anyway, which is the whole puberty thing, the whole dating, starting to shave, being on the lacrosse team at school, all of this kind of stuff. And right in the middle of all of that, he was beaten up on almost every 2 or 3 day basis. He had his broken nose set 2 or 3 different times. He kept getting stitched up because the Roman Catholic kids used to use their rosaries against him in the fights. They'd take the rosaries and cut pieces out of his face swinging their rosaries. The rosaries make a real good weapon in a street fight. He was pushed in front of a bus on a couple occasions, pushed down flights of stairs at school in front of the teachers who looked the other way. He had to make carbon copies on snap-out carbon paper of every homework assignment and test that he did, because the teachers would refuse, and they would say, oh, you never turned in your test paper, you never turned in your homework, you get an F. So we had to keep carbon copies of everything, and that kind of thing. That's the atmosphere that he was in. And we think what happened to him is what the psychologists call reaction formation. That is, that he was so abused, so set upon by the Christian community, he was never able to hold a job in his life for more than about 6 months, as soon as they found out that he was the Bill Murray rather than just a Bill Murray holding that position. That we think essentially what happened is that his mind snapped, that he was identifying with his captor, with his aggressor, with the persons who were bludgeoning him constantly. I was lucky because of my age. I was elementary school, and he was junior high when this started. In elementary school, everybody was just a playmate or a softball buddy or something like that, and they weren't as hostile to me as they were to him at age 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right when that case was coming down. I was young. I was 8 or 9 years old. So I got spared all of that. So what he did was, unfortunately, is he allowed himself to be picked up by the evangelical community in the United States as an object for them to use to push the movement to get prayer back in public schools. So when he first came out and said what he said, Jerry Falwell was then in prominence. Falwell's kind of, you don't hear about him anymore. He's kind of disappeared more into the background. And it's now the Christian Coalition and the leaders of that group that are in the vogue. But Falwell picked him up, paid for all of his transportation, flew him around the country in Falwell's personal Learjet, set up speeches for him in front of congregations. Senator Strom Thurmond paid for his hotel rooms and a lot of the travel and food and all of that. He was trotted into the White House on about 4 different occasions to sit in the Oval Office and have personal conversations with Reagan, a religious nut from the beginning, good old Ron. And he sat there and they talked about the Bible. And then he was carted out essentially as like a marionette on strings. And he was taken in front of the congregations to tell how he had been abused by his dirty, rotten communist mother. His line is that she was taking direction by phone calls directly to our house from Khrushchev, and that we had money coming in rubles. I don't know what we were supposed to do with the rubles, directly into the bank account in Baltimore, Maryland to pay our attorney, and that this is what, if you go to hear him in a church, he will say that it was all a communist plot, that she was involved with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in
Oh, yeah,
Baltimore,
that too,
Maryland,
yeah.
of which we didn't know we didn't even know there was a committee like that in Baltimore, Maryland, at that time, during the Bay of Pigs invasion
There
and all
wasn't,
of
there
that.
never has been.
But at any rate, he published a book, which goes to it, and it's pretty easy having grown up with him to know that he didn't write that, which was of the mommy dearest genre, against his mother, claiming all these horrible things that never actually happened in our family, never actually were done to him at all, were done to him. For example, one of the primary lines in the book is that my grandfather, her father, was a drunkard. My grandfather was a teetotaler and never drank anything but his cup of coffee black, and smoked his Camels without filters, sitting there at the coffee table in our kitchen. He just didn't like the taste of it, any kind of alcohol. He never drank it in his life. And the book is full of those kind of things. It was picked up by the largest publisher of Bibles in North America, Thomas Nelson out of Tennessee, and they have printed millions and millions of copies in both paperback and hardback. And generally, when we give a lecture in front of a general public audience, there's at least one or two people sitting with a copy of that book with these dog-eared, well-turned pages with all kind of little paper clips ready to quote different lines out of that.
And when I look at them and say Sullivan versus New York Times,
Yeah.
they say, what's that?
So, essentially, what that means is that we're public figures and can't do anything about any of that. But it has been something that has been a setback to us. It has been a setback to our movement to have him do what he's doing and say what he's saying, and to do it for money, essentially, and to be carted around the country and be used to speak in front of these churches. I don't think he's any more religious than I am, except that he knows what the congregations want to hear. It's just like I do. I could get up in front of any congregation tomorrow in Houston and give a beautiful speech about Jesus Christ, because I know their Bible better than they do, and I know what they want to hear. And I could get up and do it. It's
We
very easy.
kind of like the fact that
It's very
he's a
easy.
rich man and that's all Christian money.
Yeah, but that's about it. So that's the story of my brother. We've gone different ways. I'm heading up a grassroots atheist movement, and he's out going from little church to church and armory to armory, speaking in front of growingly more conservative and Pentecostal crowds.
And I wrap this up all the time by saying, well, this is the sane one.
So that's that. That's the story of him.
It's 4:45. I don't know when we're
Yeah.
going to be thrown out, but if you have any more questions, it depends.